Testing.
Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order at 9:10 a.m. Of the April 10th Bricktown Urban Design Committee meeting. Welcome to the meeting. My name is Brent Wall. I'm the Vice Chair of the committee. When called upon, applicants and speakers will come forward to the front of the podium to speak. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Sorry. We'll get this. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Please speak in the microphone, identify yourself, and provide your address for the record when you begin speaking. Address your comments to the committee, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Citizens may address the committee on agenda items by responding to chair's call for speakers during discussion on each item and signing the speaker's log on the podium. All comments must be relevant to the item being heard. The chair or presiding officer may in his or her discretion prohibit a person from addressing the committee and/or remove that person from the council chambers if that person commits any disorderly or disruptive behavior. Please refer to the meeting agenda for more information about these requirements. If you parked in the Sheridan Walker parking garage north of John Rex Elementary School or in the Arts District parking garage just south of City Hall, staff can provide you with a parking validation ticket. The agenda and documents are located on okc.primegov.com public portal. You would select the Bricktown Urban Design Committee meeting. Once there, you would then click on an agenda item and the related documents will come up below the item. Keith, will you please call the roll?
Wall.
Present.
Egan.
Here.
McCown. Scaramucci. Here. Thompson. Present. We have quorum.
All right, we need to approve the minutes from December 13, 2023.
Move that we approve.
Do I have a second? Sandino.
I second.
All right, the motion is passed. Moving on to item number 3, cases withdrawn. Case BCA-230007 has been withdrawn. Item number 4, continuance requests, we have none. Item number 5, the consent docket, we have no items. Item number 6, cases for individual consideration, no items today. Item number 7, other business, design review district consolidation ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item before you this morning is a recommendation from the Bricktown Committee to the Planning Commission on a proposed ordinance amendment that would modify Chapter 59 to reorganize the city's 5 design districts that we currently have. Since 2019, the Planning Commission, our Planning Department, has been working on a comprehensive code update, and one of the areas that identified by the code update consultants, stakeholders, and staff for improving efficiencies is the consolidation of these 5 design districts into fewer bodies. We actually brought this issue up to all the commissions at our training session just about a year ago in spring of 2023, and we raised that issue at that time as a possibility of something that might be coming down the line, and sure enough, here we are. So what this ordinance would do is it would combine a number of our districts from 5 down to 2, and the way that would happen is that the Downtown Design Review Committee would absorb the Bricktown Urban Design Review Committee, and then the Urban Design Commission would absorb both the Riverfront Committee and the Stockyards Committee. And what that accomplishes, we've kind of outlined a number of the bullet points on the second page of the staff report, but basically we are reducing the number of appointees to our design review bodies from 37 to 18. We are reducing the number of meetings, maximum number of meetings that would occur over the course of a year from 52 to 24. And that obviously is going to have translate to some significant efficiencies at the staff level in terms of number of meetings we have to prepare for, demands on the volunteers' times that are serving on the committees and so on and so forth. It also helps the mayor's office in terms of having to monitor 37 different appointees as opposed to 18, and keeping tabs of the terms and term limits and making sure that everybody fits into the slot they're supposed to fit in, because there's obviously specific criteria for membership on the committees that we have now, and those will continue. The important thing to note is that, I'm sorry, didn't have this available to me before, but here are the 5 committees we have now. You can see that in both urban design and scenic river, there's a bunch of sub-districts in those areas that cover a lot of territory. This is kind of a brief rundown of the districts we have now. We have Bricktown, which was established in '93 with 7 members. I think it was initially 5 when they first started out. I think we raised it to 7 in 2016. Downtown was established in 2007 with 7 members. Scenic River is established in August of 2007 with 9 members. And you can see it covers a lot of territory along the river. Stockyards is a relatively small area, established in '96, one of the first 2 design districts with 5 members. And then we have urban design, which again, I think it was initially 7, but it's been expanded to 9. And it has territory all over the place. You can see all the way from Asian District up at 23rd and Class, and all the way down to Capitol Hill at Southwest 25th and Walker. And the one area that's not shown on this map is the Lincoln Boulevard corridor, because I couldn't get the proportions right on the map. So that's kind of overview of everything. So here's where we stand today. These 5 committees review these districts. Bricktown has the BC district. Downtown has 3 downtown design review districts. There's the core and then a couple of transitional areas that surround the core. Riverfront has 6 sub-districts that are along the river, and they all have their own specific regulations and guidelines in each one. Stockyards has both the core of Stockyards, which is at basically the intersection of Agnew and Exchange, and there's some transitional areas to it, north, east, and south of the core. And then, of course, urban design has a bunch of sub-districts, including Paseo, Plaza, Capitol Hill, Cottage District, which is a little bit of an outlier because it's really in downtown, but it's designated to be reviewed by urban design. So in the reorganization we're proposing in this ordinance amendment, that would end up with transitioning downtown to handling both Bricktown as well as the 3 districts that they already cover, and then urban design would take on both Stockyards and Scenic River districts. The important thing to remember is that only the bodies reviewing these areas are changing. The standards and regulations that are in place in all these design areas remain intact and unchanged. Here's how the composition is going to change. One of the things we're doing is that we're modifying somewhat the membership criteria on urban design. Number of members is going to remain at 9, but we're shuffling around a little bit the criteria for membership. We've made a special provision there to allow 2 slots for people that are either from Stockyards area or areas that are covered by Riverfront. And then The other thing that's happening with respect to downtown is, first of all, we're changing them from a committee to a commission, so the 2 remaining bodies will both be commissions. Second of all, we're increasing membership from 7 members to 9. And when we go to 9, we are adding a provision that at least one of the members would be designated as a property owner or a tenant in Bricktown. So that will maintain some representation for this body, or that area, excuse me, in the transition to the Downtown Design Review Commission. So we've taken April as our target month to take this through all the design review bodies. It went to Riverfront last week and they recommended approval. Prior to that, it went to the River Trust and they made a recommendation to the Planning Commission of approval of this ordinance amendment. We have 2 more meetings this month. Downtown is next week, and then April 24th is the meeting for urban design. And then the 5th meeting is on May 8th with Stockyards. And then after that time, we will have recommendations from all the design review bodies on this ordinance amendment, and we will start taking this through the process for adoption by Planning Commission and then on to City Council. So there's a time frames there for you in May and June for Planning Commission, and in June and July for City Council. So that concludes the presentation we have for you this morning, and I'm prepared to respond to any questions that any of you may have.
Thank you, Michael. I did want to note that Commissioner McCown has joined the meeting. Was there any information that we needed to backtrack on so that would help you? Okay. You read the staff report, you know it. Okay, yeah, we'll open it up for questions to Michael.
I think it's moving in the right direction because we rarely get to meet. It was my personal opinion, and it's usually just to set calendars or establish new chairs. One question is for the Downtown Design Review. I see in the membership terms and organizations, why was it struck out 1 member shall be a resident of the City of Oklahoma City as one of the requirements for the downtown? I see it's still in the Urban Design Committee, but it's no longer as part of the requirements for the organization for the Downtown Design Review.
I think we're pretty certain that anybody that fits into the 9 categories we have here in the proposed rules would more than likely, at least one of them would be a resident, without having to specify that as a requirement.
We also carried over the Bricktown representative position, and then Bricktown has a provision that at least 1 member be knowledgeable in historic preservation, which downtown previously didn't have. So I think in the interest of having both of those positions added to downtown, like Michael said, then all the spots were essentially filled by other qualifications. So.
That maybe made me think about this list a little differently, because I do see that it kind of adds up to the proposed membership. So I guess the way that well, let me ask 2 operative questions. The first is, will these commissions, as this is approved, be like completely reseated? And then second question is, in many cases, you can have several of these things can be true, but will these members be filled based on sort of checking a box for one of these things? Does that make? And the reason I'm asking is, like, you could be knowledgeable in the field of historic preservation, a tenant in Bricktown, and a registered architect. So.
It is a tricky game. We have pretty much a matrix that we've lined up. Because we polled all the existing members of all 5 committees to find out whether, number 1, they're still interested in serving, and a number of folks told us they weren't. So that took a few people out of the mix. But with everybody who was left who expressed an interest in continuing to serve, We talked with them extensively about what their backgrounds are, what their qualifications are, and so we could figure out which of the various slots that they could fit into either under downtown or urban design. And we've created a matrix for the mayor's office of those folks who are interested, and in some cases, people qualify for both, positions on both. In some cases, people have expressed an interest in only serving on one or the other, and we're notating that in our matrix as well so that they will have all that information. To your first question, we're working through the logistics of whether or not they're all going to be reseated. We were a little bit panicked in that we thought that we had a lot of members on DDRC and UDC that might have been termed out. And when we dug into that and started figuring out all the dates, so on and so forth, we found out that there aren't that many people that are close to being termed out. Most people are eligible. If they've expressed an interest to continue, they're still eligible to be reappointed. Now, if they are reappointed, they would not be starting from scratch. Their previous terms would still be counted in terms of their term limits and so on and so forth. However, folks that have not been either on the DDRC or the UDC, if they're appointed to either of those bodies, they would be getting a fresh start, and none of their terms from previous bodies would be counted towards their term limits. So that's kind of how we're handling it right now.
So in the course of the history of the design districts, and at least in the tenure of staff here, have you all ever had a period where it's been difficult to find volunteers to be on the committees?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's challenging, yeah. Go ahead.
Some committees are more difficult than others depending on what they're, I would say the Historic Preservation Commission is the most complicated because we've got residency requirements, we've got limits on how many can be from any one historic district, we've got lots of professional qualification requirements, but on all of these, finding people who meet the requirements professionally, who meet requirements as far as where they live or work, and who have the time and the interest to commit to serving on the committee. Yeah. And then also finding people who are not so professionally engaged in an area that they have to recuse themselves on every item every time we turn, sometimes that is an issue too, that we constantly lose quorum because people are having to recuse frequently. So yes, I would say, especially during COVID, we had a lot of challenges. We had, especially when we went back to in-person meetings, we had members on various committees that were not comfortable meeting in person. That was a struggle. And then you just have periods where there's a lot of turnover and you lose a lot of people all at once, and getting back to where you can meet quorum every month is hard. So.
Yeah. I can see where reducing the overall number of volunteers would help in that case. I think the potential downside of this is that the meetings are going to be longer, and I could see where that could be a challenge where somebody's like, I don't have 4 hours to do a meeting. I'm sure this has all been discussed in the lead up to it, but definitely pros and cons, but just kind of thinking through how this impacts as a committee member volunteering and making that commitment.
That is something we did take into account and consideration in coming up with the combinations we came up with. I think primarily our first pass was, does it make sense geographically for these bodies to be together? And for us, Bricktown and downtown was, made perfect sense. But to your point about the length of the meetings, part of what we as staff feel like is that when we have these meetings that are 15, 20, 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and we're thinking, man, we're making all these volunteers come down here once a month for these short meetings, and we know you have busy schedules and you have other things to do, and when the meeting takes shorter than it does for you to park and then to leave, we kind of feel like it's an inefficient use of your time and partially our time to a certain extent as well. So we do realize and understand that the meetings do have the potential to run longer, but we feel that's a benefit. We feel like it's making better use of everybody's time. We don't have 5 bodies meeting every year. We only have the 2. So we're cutting the meeting number from 52 down to 24, and I think that's a significant change. As to the length of the meetings, we do agree there probably will end up being longer because there's just going to be more cases on each agenda. However, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to come down here and expect to be here for an hour and a half or 2. I don't think we're looking at 4-hour meetings at all, so.
Yeah, and more often than not, Bricktown goes months without items that require commission review, so that's really not adding much to downtown as far as a volume of cases. Urban design's pretty consistently busy. River's pretty consistently busy, but still even with those, it's not a huge volume of cases, and then Stockyards is pretty quiet. So I don't think urban design's going to be overwhelmed. And yeah, hopefully it feels like a more meaningful, worthwhile use of people's morning or afternoon to come and meet than coming down, as Michael said, for one item on a consent docket and you're done in 7 minutes. So.
Did I hear? I might have actually. This might have just been an example that was given, but is HP being folded into this as well?
No,
Okay.
HP stands alone. It's
Okay. All right.
it's its own animal, and it'll
Okay.
stay. And they have consistently very lengthy agendas, so we didn't feel like that one needed to be absorbed into any other committees.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions for Michael, we'll ask for a motion to recommend approval of this ordinance amendment to the Planning Commission.
I would like to move this motion. I'm just going to read what it says.
I'll second the motion.
I don't know when to move or make a motion. I just.
Move it. I don't remember how to vote. Pretty much. That's one that don't recommend him.
All right, the motion has passed. I think we all just put ourselves out of a job.
Well, I was going to say, don't delete us from your calendar
Yes.
yet, because it will be several months before this takes effect. So please continue to hold your Bricktown meeting dates open for us, and we will keep you posted on the timeline for when everything changes over.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have one last case.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, I am curious. Was there a noticeable concern that kept, the thread that kept going through all of these meetings? Did anyone continually voice the same concern, whether it was us or another group? Was there something that bothered people about combining, or was mostly everyone in favor of such?
We were actually prepared for a lot of pushback from a couple of the groups. Most notably, we figured Riverfront would push back, and we thought for sure Stockyards would.
No?
Nothing.
Okay.
And I think partly, everyone's comforted by the fact that the guidelines and regulations are staying the same, the boundaries are staying, the function of what happens in their districts is not changing. So.
All right, moving on to item number 8, communications. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the administrative approval report? Okay. Moving on to 8B, comments from planning department staff. Okay.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, 8C, any comments from our committee members? Good. All right, item D1, our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, something. Mine doesn't say what it is.
May 8th.
May 8th, thank you. It's cut off on my screen. May 8th, okay. Item number 9, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Right, well.